Xionglu Yoichi paced his study, his sharp purple eyes glaring down at a coffin of ice. The many facets and angles distorted the body frozen inside, but Yoichi knew the face of his enemy. The Jiyu chieftain had nearly upset the intricate plans Yoichi and his mother had been carefully piecing together over the years. Nearly. Yoichi had had to take matters into his own hands. His mother hadn't been happy about that either, but he doubted she actually had the capacity to feel joy. He had stopped the Jiyu chieftain from ruining all they had worked for. That was all that mattered. Now all that remained was to break into this wretched coffin. The chieftain's vastly overpowered row was already gone, lost to the second princess, but if Yoichi could break through, he should be able to perform the far-stretching taproot, one of the core techniques of the path of the water lily. This would allow him to siphon the Jiyu chieftain's row from Koida and absorb it himself. Footsteps in the empty alchemy laboratory outside his study alerted him to his mother's approach. It could only be her. The rest of the alchemists in the eastern tower had scurried off when their new emperor had sent them away for the night. From the quick, clipped pace, Yoichi could tell that his mother was irritated. He should have had the ice coffin dragged to his royal residence. He doubted she would have looked for him there, even now that Hao was dead. In the 5 years since he had come to court, she had never visited his private chambers, maintaining the facade that they barely knew one another. It was an arrangement he preferred. A gracefully aging woman, in the robes of a court alchemist, stepped between the wooden shelves dividing his study from the laboratory. Yoichi had never grown used to seeing his mother with locks dyed as black as night and brows smudged with charcoal. The disguise was part of her role as Sulyan, skilled court alchemist, a part she played well enough to fool even the emperor who had been her lover when she was nothing more than a harem girl. Yoichi wondered whether his mother would let her hair return to white now. She bowed deeply, exposing the back of her neck. "Phoenix Emperor of the rising Xionglu dynasty," she said in the tone of a minor official greeting her exalted ruler. Yoichi smirked. "I'm alone, Mother, unless you count this chunk of ice, but you're more than welcome to continue talking up to me." Yunhua rose, a scowl twisting her face. "Have you found a way in?" she asked, switching to the familial tone of a mother to her son, an irritated mother. "Not yet." Yoichi pulled back an open palm to his hip, fingers bent into claws, then slammed his fingertips into the ice coffin. Poisonous black row seeped from his fingertips, sliding over the surface, searching for an opening or weakness, trying to dig down like roots into soil, but the fingers of virulent black light couldn't pierce the ice. He let the technique dissipate, his toxic row retreating through his pathways and back into his heart center. "It seems to be unbreakable." "You've tried to melt it?" Yoichi rolled his eyes, as if he were a fool. "Over a sufficiently hot fire," his mother insisted. "Fire," he drawled. "Why did I not think of that? Here I've just been breathing on it." "I said sufficiently hot," she growled between her teeth. "Do you consider an all-consuming salt fire sufficient, esteemed mother?" He felt a surge of petty vindication as she turned away, unable to find a flaw in his methods. She grunted and cupped her chin, her colorless eyes scrutinizing the ice much as he'd been doing. She returned to the only conclusion she seemed to come to of late. "If you had just followed my carefully wrought plan, if you hadn't panicked and thrown away everything I've been working for from the day you were born." "I salvaged the plan before that Jiyu scum could tear it apart." "Nonsense," she snapped. "Hao never would have put aside conquest for peaceable negotiation. He loved the battle too deeply." "You didn't hear the old fool fawning over the alliance with that tribe of savages," Yoichi muttered. She ignored this, of course, as it would have proven her wrong. "We could have continued siphoning unlimited row from the casualties of that endless war, then when the time was ripe, killed Hao and taken back your rightful throne." "Apologies, Mother, but the time was ripe. We would have had no better opportunity to enact our plan once the youngest was married off and swept away to some remote mountain village." "You have the entire path at your disposal, and yet you fear a few 100 miles?" His mother's charcoal-smudged brows made her eye roll overly dramatic. "There is no place where the water lily does not take root.